Last Wednesday, August 19th, Sergey Nazarov was standing in the Roosevelt Room at the White House a few feet away from the president. Trump was working his way down a list of names, and somewhere between the CEO of Bitco and the CEO of Ripple, he said it out loud.
Sergey Nazarov, co-founder of Chainlink Labs.
If that feels like something you've seen before, you're actually right. March of last year, Sergey was already at the first White House Crypto Summit. July of last year, he was in the room when the Genius Act got signed. A few weeks after that, the White House published its digital asset report, and oracles were in there by name as critical infrastructure. Somewhere in between, the Department of Commerce started publishing official macroeconomic data on-chain through Chainlink, including real GDP figures, and this is the fourth or the fifth time, depending on how you count. So let's ask the obvious question. Does any of it actually matters, or is it all just a very well-connected founder collecting photographs? Let me walk you through that, because the week was a lot busier than on one appearance, and then we'll talk about what's actually coming. Let's start with the room. The event was built as a meeting with technology leaders, and the guest list tells you what it actually really was about. Brian Armstrong from Coinbase, you had Brad Garlinghouse from Ripple, Vlad Tenev from Robinhood, you had the CEO from Kraken, you had the Winklevoss twins, Friedman, the president from Nasdaq, Jeffrey Sprecher from ICE, people from DTCC, CME, A16Z, and Paradigm. And sitting alongside all of that, you had SEC chair Paul Atkins and CFTC chair Mike Selig. Crypto companies and the people who run the actual plumbing of American capital markets in one room with the two regulators who decide what any of them are allowed to do. So Sergey barely spoke, roughly 73 seconds out of the 40-minute event, a little over 200 words. He used them on two things. First, that stablecoin adoption is producing a real, measurable benefit for the dollar, pointing at the Genius Act and at how much the US government's debt now sits inside stablecoin reserves. Second, that tokenized equities are next in line, and that they'd open up access to American stocks for people all over the world. That's a very deliberate message. He's telling this administration that tokenization is a dollar strategy, and that there is a part that got much less coverage. After the press left, a group of executives were taken to the Oval Office. And Trump asked the group directly what his administration should be doing, and the conversation went to the Clarity Act. Sergey told CoinDesk afterwards that they came away thinking passage was doable, that only a few small issues remained, and there were a handful of senators who would still need convincing. The strategic Bitcoin reserves also came up, though nothing concrete came out of it. Now, the timing was not a coincidence, and this is where the week really gets interesting. The day before the meeting, on August 18th, the SEC proposed something called Regulation Crypto Assets, 402 pages. It's the first time the agency has tried to write real crypto rules instead of running the industry through enforcement actions, and it does two things worth understanding. The first is fundraising. There's a startup path allowing a project to raise up to $5 million over 4 years, and a bigger path allowing up to $75 million in any 12-month window, both without registering the offering the traditional way. The second thing is the piece people have been waiting for, or waiting on for the better part of the decade. It's the safe haven. If a project can certify that it has finished its managerial work it originally promised and files the paperwork saying so, the SEC will treat the investment contract around the token as having ceased to exist. In plain English, there's finally a written answer to the question of when a token stops being a security. It's a proposal, of course, not a law yet, and comments run until October 20th, and the safe harbor and the state preemption piece are the parts most likely to get rewritten. But it exists in writing with legal weight that staff guidance never carried. Then the day after the White House meeting, Sergey was in the third room. The CFTC held the first meeting of its new Innovation Advisory Committee, and he was at the table. His message there was blunter. He said the speed at which the American financial system moves on-chain is going to determine Americans' position in the global markets, and that tokenized equities are the next major phase. He pointed at round-the-clock collateral management, better transparency, and smart contracts security mattering more as AI rises or raises cyber risk across finance. So 3 days, 3 rooms, 1 argument repeated to 3 different audiences. Now, let's leave Washington for a bit, because the product side of of that same week was arguably the louder story. Wyoming Stable Token Commission finished migrating its Frontier stable token off Layer 0 and into CCIP. I talked about this in a previous video, but the token is the first fiat-backed, fully reserved stablecoin ever issued by a public entity in the United States. The commission ran an exhaustive security review before choosing, and it signed a multi-year exclusive agreement. A US state government ran a procurement process on cross-chain infrastructure, and they ended up picking Chainlink. The reasons they gave are worth repeating because they're kind of the thing institutions actually care about. You have the SOC2 Type 2 certification, a heavily audited code base, monitoring systems, and built-in risk controls. Transfers validated by an independent set of node operators rather than trusting a single bridge operator. That's a procurement checklist, and it's the same checklist a bank uses. Wyoming wasn't alone. Nethermind, the team behind one of the most widely used Ethereum execution clients, gave up its Layer 0 verifier role completely and joined Chainlink as a node operator, helping secure both CCIP and data feeds. BitGo has already moved wrapped Bitcoin across somewhere between $7 and $8 billion. Stackmantle, Lombard, Kelp, Solve, Virtuals, and Re on top, and the announced migrations run through roughly 15 billion. Yeah, we also covered this extensively in previous videos, but it's definitely worth repeating. So anyway, September 15th is the first procedural vote in the on the Senate on the Clarity Act, which would split jurisdiction between the SEC and the CFTC and finally give the industry a federal framework. It's been dragged around for a year, held up by a fight between banks and crypto over the rewards on stablecoins, by illicit financial concerns, and lately by the awkward question of how to handle the president's own crypto holdings. Atkins has said openly that the legislation is still the goal, and its rulemaking is meant to give Congress a head start. October 20th is the SEC comment deadline. If that safe harbor survives roughly intact, it's generally a big deal for every token that's been sitting in limbo. There's also one thing still missing: the SEC's innovation exemption for tokenized securities, the sandbox that would let firms actually issue and trade tokenized stocks under lighter rules. It keeps getting delayed, and that's the one that matters most for tokenized equities, or that story that Sergey keeps pushing that hasn't landed yet. On the delivery side, DTCC's collateral app chain is targeting the fourth quarter of this year, running on this CRE Chainlink runtime environment, and there's an invite-only event in New York on October 29th, aimed at squarely at senior banking and capital markets people. So very exciting. Let's see what comes out of all of this. I'm very bullish on the tech, on what Chainlink is doing, on the team, on the news. And let's see, let's keep an eye on everything in the coming months. Make sure you subscribe, because that way you can be updated and be informed about everything coming out. I'll try to up my uploads a bit more as the markets accelerate, if that's the right word. So yeah, I'll see you in the next video. Thank you so much for watching. Cheers. Bye-bye.